Week 6 begins right now with World Elite taking on IG, YouLove versus Sword. And it's Demon Hunter, Druid, Hunter and Warrior for YouLove, and Demon Hunter, Druid and the Warrior for Sword, but he has the plot twist Warlock instead of the Highlander Hunter. Both Demon Hunters have been banned out, and we are opening up with everybody's favourite Druid mirror. A matchup that tends to favour quite strongly the person who is the first one to land a Glowfly Swarm, as these are the Spell Druids, so not a lot of other options going on. Obviously there's far more to it than that. If you can survive, land your own Mount Seller, get going, you can turn it around. Both players have the aforementioned Glowfly Swarm, and that is important, obviously. See who gets going first. Of course, going second's kind of weird in this. You want to go first, you want to have the opportunity to play it down first, but with coin and the extra number of cards in hand, going second can get it done quite easily sometimes. YouLove drawing into that Innovate, so already going to have the decision to make next turn. Is it even a decision? Every single card in his hand is a spell. This is just a full board of Glowflies. Very, very hard for the opponent to deal with it. This could just be 1-0 in like a minute. There you go. How do you like this? 6 Glowflies. Turn 3. Over to you, sir. This is often the best way to meet it, is just make your own board and kill as many of the opposing ones as possible. And this is where the game kind of amuses me. If you've got Power of the Wild, it's just over on YouLove's side, but he hasn't. And now you sort of pick away at whatever you can if you're YouLove here. Looking really, really strong for now. Sword able to get rid of a couple of these treants though next turn, but obviously as you can see it's going to take up all of his resources. Oh, okay, well he shouldn't die here. He knows there's no lethal available, or YouLove would have delivered it, so being able to pick off some of these. Mount Seller Moonfire next turn. Trying to work out if he wants to hero power into one of these to make his Moonfire better next turn. Given that he's probably not going to die. Quite a tough one. The Ironbark should be pretty good on the Mount Seller. Yeah, he is going to hero power into one, rather than use the other option, which was Savage Roar, to remove one entirely. And Sword might be in an okay spot here, incredibly. YouLove has no obvious... Well, he does have the obvious play. He has the Overgrowth. Can't see a sensible other option. Could play the Fungal, but don't really see what that's achieving. Just get yourself to 7 mana and work out the details later is usually the way. As you get a Wild Growth, that's also an option. It still gets him to 7, which is why he's played the Fungal, I guess. But you want to be on 7, you want to activate those bog beams. Wild Growth, not necessarily the most common card back when these decks were being played. Obviously in the more modern Dragon decks it's in everything, but just a little bit of help. There was a lot of Druid around last week here, so it does make sense to have Wild Growth to help you out a little bit in the mirror. But Sword here not only managing to keep things going a little bit, but protects the Mount Seller and rolls a Mukla, which is a big deal. Now YouLove in the weird situation where if he clears this board up, he probably wins the game. And if he doesn't clear this board up, he is in so much trouble. The Mount Seller obviously will just be destructive. And he's doing well here not to panic. Can actually get through, of course, through the Mukla. And Sword, definitely not impressed with this. And as I was saying a moment ago, if that board is dealt with, which it basically has been apart from the Mukla, Sword's going to be in a lot of trouble. YouLove has all the options. He can still overflow if needed. Now, Sword, do you think you're dead next turn? Because Mount Seller Moonfire just doesn't do anything. Maybe can pick up something better, but what's the something better? I mean, his choices are to Savage Roar and kill off one minion, or to play the Mount Seller and do nothing but Moonfire a minion. And then the Mount Seller will die next turn no matter what this is. I guess he could get Ziggs or Apex Predator, might keep it alive. Even then it doesn't. I don't think I like this, although I totally understand it. I think maybe he had to wait a turn and try and pick up the second Ironbark, long shot though it was. I don't think there was a role there that ever got sorted out, and I think he might be thinking that. It's one of those situations where it's unlikely to cost him the game because he was in so much trouble anyway. And now YouLove just has to hope that this isn't Ysera from Sword, and it's not. He's got through 2 Mount Sellers and a Glowfly, and obviously another Glowfly would be useless at the current position. And obviously if his Mount Seller lives next turn, overflow into a whole caboodle of 0 mana cards is going to get that done. But Sword's surviving. He's doing a good job of surviving, but Ysera will then get it done into overflow. That's the problem with Druid when you get behind. The reloads are pretty constant. And this is one of those games where if YouLove could show his opponent his hand, Sword would just give up and we'd get on to the next game. He's doing an admirable job of staying in this. But from a overseer's perspective, which is what we are, looking at both hands, he's not been in it since his second Mount Seller died. This is his first Mount Seller died, to be fair. But he still has that fleeting chance of getting Ysera. But YouLove is now going to overflow and get a whole board of dragons, and then we will finally crawl to the end of this. IG, if they win this match, go to 7 wins, which will put them level top of the table. This is the last week of the phase, which the team who come top will get the first choice on which team they don't want to face in phase 3. And IG getting it together, I would say. Sword has always been solid. Sif, we know, is very good. Ding struggled a bit, I felt, personally, when we saw him. But also we saw XC, who definitely struggled the first time we saw him. He had some accidents with generous mummies. But since then, has been putting it together both in Masters Tours events and in this league. So maybe that was just first time nerves or something when we saw the generous mummies. I mean, maybe I was wrong. It's been known. I wasn't wrong. Those generous mummies were terrible, especially the second one. And that's 5 weeks ago. I can't hold that against a man for the rest of his life. He's clearly highly regarded, and IG are getting it done slowly but surely. Anyway, they're a long way from getting it done here. World Elite, as I've described several times before, but I know that people like to dip in and out of these videos. World Elite are the marker. They're the Highlander Hunter. They're the team that if you can't beat them, you shouldn't be here, but they're not easy to beat. And 5 and 5 is exactly what I would expect them to be on at this stage. Well, that's a bit of a cheat because basically every team is 5 and 5, plus or minus 1 win. It's been quite spectacular how close all the teams are together. Bottom 2 teams don't get to the playoff stage. Top 2 teams get byes. And that's important. Because it's so close. Every win is going to firstly propel you right up the table. But secondly also not actually distance you. So somebody needs to put a run together to get into that top 2. And somebody will. It's kind of how maths works. And you're wondering why I'm not talking about this game. Because it's been over for some time. And it's boring me. But exciting times for YouLove, who has been around for actual ever. I've been casting Chinese Hearthstone since before I was a caster. It's how I cut my teeth on the scene, casting over Team Story, which was a Chinese league in 2015. And YouLove was captain back then. And playing solid Hearthstone all the time. Been a very good statesman for the game all this time. And here he is, still going in the biggest team championship in the business. Well, Sword's collection of dragons includes 0 taunt minions. And YouLove has a Savage Draw in his hand. I'm assuming it's enough. I suppose I should actually... No, Sword knows it's not enough. That's all that's good enough for me. YouLove takes a 1-0 lead and the Druid mirror is over. And we can move into the non-Druid mirror part of the match, which is the best part. So, Sword on the plot twist Warlock. This is kind of an interesting matchup. If the Druid does its thing, the Warlock doesn't play Hearthstone. Sword not very happy with this looking hand. So that's probably, I don't know, 20-25% of games, maybe a little bit more, because Fungal Fortunes is still 2 mana. But when Druid doesn't do that thing it does, and that is ramp into Mount Seller particularly, and you can see YouLove is keeping exactly that setup, because the making 2/2s, Glowfly Swarms, not quite as good because Dyson Netherwing. So yeah, keeping the exact right 2 cards for the job. Might be slightly slower because of it, but absolutely correct. The Warlock's removal is basically dependent on the opposing health. So you want as much health as possible on the board. Removes cards like Dark Skies from being a threat. Sword also will want to get not drawing all these 9-drops as a thing. Needs to draw a plot twist. He does have the Moag, so he can deal with some of the bigger things that are going to come along. And obviously, a little bit hard to judge a Warlock's hand until it fills up, because it can change so rapidly, drawing 2 cards a turn, or even more. As next turn, he will draw 3 cards thanks to the questing. YouLove on the other side, we look at this hand, has the opportunity to coin into the overgrowth here. Partially because it serves the purpose of getting rid of the coin. His hand is filling up. And then next turn, he will have 6 mana and an Innovate and a couple of Moonfires. It'll be tempting to even go for it then. Obviously, though, you don't have the capability to do some of the stuff you want to do. But YouLove has had a very solid game plan for this. And Sword in a world of trouble here. Does pick up the plot twist, and that's usually a small relief because you get to advance your quest massively. It's important towards finishing the game. But this occasion, it's more than a small relief. He has got the worst hand you could ever imagine at this point, and he's going to be able to just get rid of it and get a real hand. And now we have a game. And the reason that YouLove's mulligan was so strong here is it plays around Twisting Nether. He's going to have a monster board set up before any of this even matters. Good understanding there of how this works as well. Just having a 3-2 on the board. More attack, more health more importantly. But Sword Gets the plot twist. So if the game goes any length of time now, which it could, he will complete the quest. And also he should, in a fair and balanced world, draw some removal here. So no Moarg is a bit grim. But other than that, he won't be too disappointed with that. Has the opportunity to Rain and Mortal Coil, should he want to. It's not really very good. Maybe he'll just tap. To his then he goes to 10 cards. So Rain Mortal Coil does make some space, puts him to 8 cards. Which is where you want to be a lot of the time. Switching it up between 8 and 9 cards is about where you want to be. 8 just means you can have a turn and not panic too much about overdrawing. And obviously having a full hand is very good. 4 cards, like the Abyssal Summoner you see there, the plot twist, etc. So try and tread that line, and this is why he's ended up here. Gonna have his first test next turn. And I'm not sure he's equipped to deal with everything. There is going to be a lot of stuff on this board. He can deal with the Mount Seller. That's good news for him. Can he deal with all of this nonsense? Well, the other option, depending on what comes up here, is to just play out the Netherwing. His opponents use a lot of cards. Oh my goodness, who cares? Just clear it all up. And YouLove is devastated. It was looking like he was going to just get that done with Savage Roar. Sword was going to be able to clear up some of the board, but I don't think it was going to be enough. I was just getting there. He sort of was going to have to either leave up the Mount Seller or leave up several minions. And even the several minions route, I think, left up 3 things. I think Savage Roar may have just been enough. But I don't have to do that math now. Because Sword picked up the absolute nuts. Celedan being irritating to play against sometimes. You don't feel so aggrieved when they plot twist into it, when it's just ripped off the top like that. Definitely a game changer. Possibly a match changer. And maybe even a whole tournament changer. We've explained how close this all is. Quest is complete. I think he wants to tap here to see if he gets a Moarg or not. No. Quite happy to keep his hand size a little bit smaller. Obviously there's not much more to deal with now. You do have to deal with the Asura, but Twisting Nether resides somewhere in the deck, so the game plan really is to find Twisting Nether. And of course, drawing 2 cards a turn, you find it pretty quickly. The other option is to just play an Abyssal and hit the Druid really hard. Yep. Health total goes down pretty quickly now. Finding 2 cards a turn means that Malygos will get the opportunity to do 9 damage pretty soon. Technically, lethal is set up here, as next turn Alex Straza puts YouLove to 15, and there's 15 on the board. It's unlikely that will happen, but you know. We'll keep an eye on lethal possibilities, as that is kind of my job. Unless I'm talking through a Druid mirror in its final stages, in which case my job is to talk utter nonsense and entertain you as much as possible. So YouLove using up a lot of resources to stay alive here, but this is going to put up a big board of dragons most of the time. We'll be looking for as high a health total as possible for more reasons than one now. And he's whiffed. Yeah, and he doesn't look happy, and I don't blame him. I'd be unhappy too. There were a lot of cards left in his deck, but not only did he not get many dragons, but they're pretty pathetic. Not easy to do this mega efficiently. Very easy to at least do it. There's 6 damage from the Mortal Coil will help so much. He's worked out that he can tap. Okay, Sense Demon's not going to help him much. See how he chooses to approach this. Looks like he's not going to go with the Netherwing. Otherwise, obviously, he wouldn't be playing minions out there. He's going to find himself the Moags, so Sense Demons obviously is helpful in this situation. He did have the other 2 Broodmothers in his hand, so knew he was going to get them. I'm not going to be critical, but it feels like this was convoluted. Play down the Netherwing and trading in the 2 minions, use up the Mortal Coil, would have left a very similar board state, and I think was more efficient. So YouLove looking to draw cards, unable to do so. He could and probably should cycle the Overgrowth. 8 cards left and there's a lot of portals there. It's probably worth the risk. He'll know how many other card draws there are on his deck though. Guess there's the Rising Winds choice as well. See what plan he's got here. I don't see that this ever sticks the way he's done it. Maybe it does, I guess. And I can see it's not going to, which helps me, obviously. I don't know. I don't feel this ever sticks. I'd be looking for dragons. There's only 2 or 3 left, I guess. But if there's no Netherwing by now, when is there one? Okay. Let's go the other way. Maybe he realises he's in deep trouble because the Warlock stabilise, and if there's no Netherwing, he wins the game. Let's go with that. He's not stupid. He knows that there's probably a Netherwing, and then you need to clear the second board as well. But he knows that Moags are both in hand from last turn. Obviously, one was used because the Broodmothers are revealed when you Sense Demons. So he shouldn't be surprised this is going to be cleared up. But maybe it was just a Hail Mary. But the combination of cards needed for Sword here was basically... Yeah, YouLove doesn't flinch. He expected it. He just felt this was his best chance. I felt his best chance was to try and draw into some portals. Both were pretty grim. But given how he mulliganed and given how he set this up, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, knowing exactly what he was trying to do. Maybe there's no portals left. I thought there was a few. Okay, good. Good meaning I'm not going insane, rather than good he got a 2-3. Really hasn't had the best of games at all. The Celedan completely ruined him, but all the other aspects of this game, apart from his opening hand, have also just not been in his favour. Now I think you Glowfly. Like, if it was right last turn, it's got to be right now. It's not nice at all. He knows it's going to get cleared, but I feel it's a better shot than it was last turn, with all the removal just being used up. Yep, makes the space. Goes for Glowfly, and I mean, Sword can do whatever he likes here. For instance, the first thing that catches the eye, the simplest way, is Zephrys into Holy Nova and a million other ideas, most likely. Now all he's got to do is spend the rest of his turn optimising. Is there anything even better than that? This deck's weird. I mean, it's not weird, all decks are like this, but it's punishing in that you have to work out your entire turn to work out if you can tap or not, and then work out your entire turn again after you tapped. So planning your time, like estimating how much time you'll need after you tap, is quite important. And this looks really good to me. Just occupying the board a bit. You know, you haven't got much more to face. Maybe one more dragon. I've lost track. He won't have. But YouLove going through the motions now. I'm not even sure what he can find that would help. I don't think he rolled a single thing bigger than a 5-4. Maybe 5-5. But makes his last board. There are worlds where he has lethal next turn with a double savage draw. I don't know what worlds they are. I certainly don't live in them. And again, same as last turn. However you want to do it, you do it. Hero power. I don't even know. There's so many ways to do this. I think you just pick one. I'm just going to tap and see where I'm at, but clearing it up with Zephyrs feels like it has zero downsides. Alright, well, there you go. That's why you tap. And now just play your minions, and YouLove should concede, as he has no way to deliver this damage. He can't even get you on fatigue. He's going to die in 2 or 3 turns. It's one game all in this first match of week number 6. And down to the last 3 games. So it's last year standing. Both Druids have lost. So Warlock and Warrior on the side of IG, and Warrior and the Highlander Hunter on the side of World Elite. And I'm one of the people who thinks that Hunter's quite strongly favoured in this matchup. It's a highly contentious matchup. I think Twitter might even tell you that Hunter is not favoured. But I don't know, turn after turn of big minions, on curve minions coming at you, backed up with a hero power and the opportunity to smash you for some burst damage, is exactly the sort of things that Warlock doesn't want to face for me. Obviously, on the other side of that, the argument, you know, Warlock can gain a lot of health. It has infinite removal almost. It can kill you over the top. It's got its own big minions that Hunter might struggle to remove. And that's where the argument, sort of the battlegrounds of that argument take place. But for me, and I'm the one in charge today, look at me go, I'm going to say that Hunter is favoured here. Not got the greatest of starts though, YouLove. It's going to be interesting to see how he uses the Dragonbane. You really want to get 7 damage out of that. And that sounds trivial, but at the moment he hasn't got a curve if he doesn't put it down. Shadow Weaver's pretty nice, but isn't quite the right shape for the job. Dark Skies is a big deal when Shadow Weaver's only 4-3. There's only 6 health out there. He'll be scared this all gets blown up. And if it does, he's out of gas. But it does not all get blown up. It's not ideal, but Sword only healing for 4 with that kill. That's important later, because you'd like to do those damages with Moarg and heal for 8 and undo a lot of the good work of your opponent. And this turn is pretty grim. I think the Desert Spear and everything trading in is the thing that catches the eye, but that is so horrible looking. It's also possible you Desert Spear and just hit in the face, trade in the Locust token. Definitely want to get the Desert Spear out there, because next turn you want to play the Faceless and have 2 4/4s in play. It's just a case of what you do with the Spear, I think. Dragonbane is probably going to die. Deadly Shot is wasted because you're going to need that for Abyssals later on. He's going to go for the Dragonbane. See if this survives. Is this just an amazing read? Is this just an amazing read? Like, I do not like this play. But he thought about that long and hard. He can see the obvious as well as I can with the play into the Corruptor. And he's right. This is the important part here. If he'd played this and Sword's hand was full of removal, I wouldn't even query that this is just not the right play. But his hand is not full of removal, and this is a considered decision. Did he get a little read out of the previous turn, maybe? Because Sword had to deal with it in a fairly inefficient manner. That was it. That there's a good chance that Sword can't answer this. Because this is spectacular if Sword doesn't now answer it. Like, absolutely monstrously spectacular, because it makes next turn incredibly good. And I think you just got to give credit there. If this was a rank 14 player or whatever the current equivalent is, like gold 3 or something, yeah, sure, I'd say that they didn't do it right. I'm allowed to afford those biases. But it worked from a player who knows what he's doing. And the reason it's so important is he can now get so much damage through to face. Look at this nonsense. Keeping the token alive because he's got Varanus next turn, so... Not that there should be any taunts to face, but it's there. And then he can just generate tokens. And not much has changed. Sword couldn't deal with it last turn. He can't deal with it now. Well, double Moarg and Rain would have cleared it up. But would he ever have been able to win the game if he'd done that? I think YouLove will try to avoid, where possible here, playing this faceless. It may be that he has to. He's got to think long and hard about what Zephrys will offer here. But also, will it offer him anything for 2 mana? Because what he wants to do is he wants to hero power face having killed the Swampoos. That's how this turn wants to look for him. But he can't do it that way. If he presses the button first and hits the Swampoos, he loses out on 5 damage to face. How tempting is it to just deadly shot here? You guarantee 11 to face and you've got Bran next turn. The more I look at it, the more I like that. It seems really, really ridiculous, but 11 to face here is huge. You've still got 2 minions next turn with Varanus set up. Huh. I wonder. Anyway, Sword does clear up, but he is only on 9. So, I've been... Is there even a lethal from Zeph? I don't think so. I've been pretty down on Bran, calling it Dino Trader Bran and everything. When the 8/8 has to inevitably trade, but this time it's not trading. It's going face with a hero power that does 2 and a Zephrys that does at least 6 in hand. And Sword should not be able to come back from this. He has got the double Moab. So if he picks up the Nether Breath, it's like infinite healing or something. But he doesn't. And that all goes back to YouLove just dropping the Dragonbane. And that's, I'm going to have to say, a superbly well played game. So he's going to go fishing. Can only play 1 of the Moargs. So he needs to heal and deal with all the stuff on board. And he doesn't know, but he's also got to deal with the Zephrys. Well, he can clear the stuff on the board. He did gain the 8 health. Maybe he holds on? Surely not. I mean, if you don't kill the 8/8, you probably lose the Hearthstone game. Choosing to tap first. But the tap puts him down to 7, which means that Hero Power Zephyrus Fireball would be lethal. And he sees it, strangely enough. It's going to be 2-1 to World Elite. Really interesting, that 4th turn. I want to know how he made that read. Or maybe he didn't make that read. Maybe he just decided that is the way forward. It was the way forward. World Elite with a 2-1 lead. And Hunter gets to stay on with Egg Warrior in his back pocket. So, gets a free roll here. If he wins this, he's fine. If he doesn't, it is a mirror match. They're both playing eggs. I believe. Having seen that green skin, I'm now questioning myself slightly. Okay. I've got the one right week set. And this is not the deck list that I have been given. Okay. IG, yep. Phase 2, yep. Week 3, yep. No green skin. Okay, so I've had this problem before with the warrior builds on the website. We just have to assume it's the meaty build at the point because we can see a green skin. And I believe that World Elites is listed as the egg, but we'll find out as we go. There only seems to be a problem with the warrior decks. Maybe I'm doing something very stupid. It's very likely that I am. Anyway, back to the game in hand. The hunter does not beat the warrior if the warrior gets the board in these. It's very strange in that the hunter is kind of the defender for large chunks of the match. Really pains you to not use your Rot Nest, but Shadow Weaver is so good in this matchup. So is the Desert Spear when you've got Varanus. I would take the Shadow Weaver here because stopping the weapons from attacking really hurts the hunter, but it's going to be very off curve. I can do it now. Yeah, I take Shadow Weaver and I coin it out. But then the curve becomes so grim. Plus Sword didn't play a weapon on 3. So maybe YouLove will come to the conclusion there's no weapon available. It's not really a read you can make, but okay. Now there's a weapon available. Of course he knows there's a weapon. While I was waffling on looking for deck lists, it looks like a Corsair Cash was used. My bad. So he knew about the weapon, still didn't want to freeze face. Choosing to prioritise the coin, because after the weapon's attacked once, the horse has bolted to some degree, especially if it's an Ankar. YouLove already, though, struggling to set up any sort of defence here. It's one of the problems the hunter can have in this matchup. Is there's kind of no active game plan here. You can't just keep reacting or you'll lose to a combo kill. But putting on the pressure is hard because the warrior, well, it's the best deck in the game and can clear boards regularly as well. And gain armour. It's pretty grim. Right now, Sword's on a bit more of a straightforward plan, though. We can see from the hand he has. No way of damaging his minions available, so he's just going to play Greenskin and launch things into the face for the time being. Perfectly valid strategy, and one that I think he's going to embrace. 4-3 weapon, yeah, does 12 damage if you're not being pressured. And he's not being pressured. Not to mention the other damage it does, obviously, with picking up the lackeys and such like. It's underrated. And is part of the reason that when the nerfs came, Corsair Cash, they just took that edge off the aggression part of the weapons, tried to make them more their natural use, which is to trade into things and clear the board for your minions. Sort of expected use. Well, there goes the weapon, but YouLove's ability to get hold of this board is just not happening. There's a feeling of inevitability here, but Zephyrus into Brawl could change it, I guess. Protecting his face by playing the minion's face first. No, just play a Brute. That's the problem. Actually, Innervage Rampage is huge now. Is this lethal? 5, 6, 7, 9, 11 plus Lackey, 13 plus weapon. It is lethal. Out of absolutely nowhere. But YouLove never had a hand that would challenge that board. And I don't think taking Shadow Weaver, which would have been my choice, would have made much difference. Definitely would have been my choice. Now I know there was a Corsair Cash played. And we go into the mirror match. And for the purposes of this mirror match, I think that YouLove is on the Egg Warrior. Yep, there's a Terran. That makes it nice and easy for me. Interested to see how much of this the players keep. I think Sword should keep the 110. Maybe a Mercenary, depending how fruity he's feeling. YouLove keep the Terran and maybe the Innervage, depending how fruity he's feeling. Oh my goodness, though, this hand from Sword. One of the ways to... There's lots and lots of ways to win this Warrior Mirror, and if you go through the VODs, you will see some of the descriptions. But one of the ways is just to get down a very early 110, Innervage it and copy it. And Sword has that start available, and YouLove does not have the egg on turn 2 that would make the life slightly awkward. The one mistake here Sword can make, but he won't, I should imagine at least, is that when you play out your challenger, you have to Innervage it that turn. It seems weird. Your gut instinct is to wait and play the Innervage once you have more information, like you would with any other Hearthstone card. But what happens if you don't do it is your opponent plays their own Warmaw Challenger, everything trades off, and your Innervage has no targets. So this play is to coin out your Warmaw Challenger, and then Innervage it immediately. And then next turn, you don't mess around waiting to get the Rampage down. Play the Mercenaries and copy it. And you have yourself 2, 3, 7s early on. And yeah, YouLove knows as well as anyone what's going on here. So from where YouLove sat, what happens now? First of all, you have to hope there's no Mercenaries, which you kind of get an inkling there is, because the coin gives it away. You have to put every ounce of damage you can muster into this thing. Absolutely everything. Now, my play as a human being would be to play the Bomb Wrangler here. Hope to trade into it, put a bomb into it the turn afterwards, get rid of it. What will impress me is if YouLove puts his own Warmaw Challenger into this and makes it a pretty easy removal target if it's copied. It's an interesting choice. One preserves resources and one kind of just all-out panic, which actually, if you can see Sword's hand, which we can, all-out panic is correct right now. And he's hovering over it. I'll be so pleased if he does this. It may not be enough to save him, but look at this play, ladies and gentlemen. He has just done 8 points of damage. Because the Mercenaries now only copy a 3-3, not a 3-7. But plan B, now he's seen that, YouLove's thinking, did I do it wrong? But I don't think he did do it wrong. He's just absolutely in trouble because Sword had both options available. It's possible Sword would have done it the slow way anyway. But YouLove considering saving the Bomb Wrangler to have a big turn where he gets Ankar and Skipper and Wrangler and other stuff, but it's just too slow. He also now has to play as if there's no mercenaries. He doesn't know if there is or there isn't. He's got no clue at this point. He just knows that Swords had the great opening. But yeah, he wants to work towards getting this Brute down in a turn or two's time. And sadly for him, that's just going to be almost impossible. Sometimes the Warrior Mirror just does this. Not completely over, by the way. We have seen, if you stabilise as Warrior, even on very, very low health totals, you know, Skipper Armorsmith gets you back in the game. You tend to have more cards left at the end of it all somehow. Because cards like Rampage are gone. But it's all pretty forlorn, to be fair. Well, the Brute's going to come down now. I'll deal with one of these. And just sets the scene for a possible comeback. I like the way that YouLove's playing this season, actually. I found that already. I think this might be the strongest he's ever been. It's pretty disparaging. I mean, he's been at the top level of Chinese Hearthstone for as long as Chinese Hearthstone's been a thing. But I feel that in any region in the world, the players who have been around for the longest time tend to have got into streaming or coaching or something else at this point. And I feel that YouLove has kept going and improved his Hearthstone. Well, he's found a different way of doing things. This one leads towards getting a Skipper. So although it looks less good, less efficient, less board presence in the immediate future, what it does is gives him a chance to get a Skipper and an Armorsmith turn and clear a board and then maybe begin some sort of fight back. I think this is probably correct. Well, Sword has the luxury of wondering what to do here. The obvious play is to play the Corsair Cash and just hit your opponent for 11. But this is on the verge of turning around, and he knows it. It's not that close to turning around, which is why I think he'll settle for the Corsair Cash in the end. But just playing Armorsmith and Bomb Wrangler in a world where you're expecting your opponent to play a Skipper as their only out doesn't miss out on much damage and gives you an element of protection, and that's what he'll be considering. Oh, he's actually going to go for it? Okay, he splits the difference. I think this was a way of not being very wrong, whatever he did. He was definitely torn between the options. I can see why it's a pretty difficult decision to make. I think he concluded in the end that he wanted to get the weapon. The Armorsmith wasn't enough, and this was the maximum damage over 2 turns, most likely. Generating the bombs, but also getting the weapon. The Armorsmith wasn't much damage, because the Ankar is 3 next turn. So yeah, he needs the maximum damage over 2 turns in case YouLove stabilises. And I think he found the way to do it. Yeah, you can't just do that math in a vacuum either. You've got to work out what you think your opponent's going to do to interact with you. Looks like 1 off lethal next turn for YouLove. And I think you can all see now how this would work out should YouLove not die. Just starting to get that card advantage, but surely it's not enough. Oh, interesting here. I imagine the Battle Rage will... Oh, maybe it won't. So I was expecting the Battle Rage to happen here, but if he gets the Risky Skipper, his own Risky Skipper Armorsmith, the Armorsmith he kept last turn, by the way, Would remove 2 of the YouLove's minions. Doesn't get the skipper though. So now he goes for the Battle Rage. Really cute ordering here. And his next plan, because plan A is finally coming to rest, is going to be a turn 8 Grommash or turn 9 Grommash. YouLove. All hands on deck, but still in there. Much to my surprise, I must admit, I thought the way that it developed with the 2 6/6s was going to get over the line convincingly, and it might still do that. Lots of energy left for Sword yet. Like, should YouLove establish a board, Sword should be able to deal with it. And because of the damage impact, YouLove's going to be cornered for options for the foreseeable future. Although here comes the health gain. Brute down. And he's in the game. And should he get the Terron down as well? He's very in the game. See how Sword deals with this? Quite easily, I should think. Battle Rage number 2 is a big deal. Can kind of do his own version of events here, where he clears up everything but the Brute, gains a load of armor in the process, and gets the big Battle Rage off is really important. So it's just the 2 big health minions, plus the Battle Rage. Probably attacks first, so he gets the extra card guaranteed in case the Battle Rage draws pirates. Oh, he's thinking about copying the Armor Smith, I guess. Yeah, he's leaving the trickier decision to last. I like just playing down the Skyvateer and drawing some cards. This was my initial instinct. Things going through his mind. But now the fact that YouLove's been on the back foot for so long is starting to become relevant. I didn't see this card. If it's a Mercenaries, then he's suddenly got himself a huge board, but I don't think it was. It's a Grom. So much damage here, but I don't think he can utilise it very easily. Like, Terron gets rid of his best minion. Don't want to play the 4-drop. Sky, a general Crag, who I've been calling Sky Captain Crag for nearly every round, is no good. I can see why he went to play the Grom straight away. It's just efficient use. Okay, sets up effectively lethal. Very close to it. And Sword now has the short-term problem. He can deal with this. Like, he's got Brute, he's got Mercenaries, he's got a Skipper. That means he can deal with this quite easily. But can he deal with it efficiently? How's he going to choose to do that? I think he can get... Yeah. He can get the extra point of damage into the Grommash, which is absolutely huge, because then the second Brute doesn't have to... He doesn't have to trade them both in, basically. Only has to get rid of one. Interestingly, using his face to take that damage to protect the health on the brute, keeping it out of most rangers. He has eliminated, of course, a lot of the charge damage now, but it's definitely not out of the woods. Like, for instance, Cork on Elite, Inner Age, Rampage, and Mercenaries is 18. And he has 2 of those cards in his hand as YouLove. Now, the problem he has is he can't deal with the skipper without just trading a Cork on Elite into it, and that feels awful. Maybe we see that followed by Terron. He just hasn't picked up options. He hasn't picked up Mercenaries, which would have enabled him to get a bigger board at any point. Hasn't picked up the Battle Rage, which is where Sword's so far in front. He gets in front with the early aggression, which bought him the time to get a Battle Rage, which has bought him the cards to continue that aggression. And that has all kept YouLove on the back foot. Leaves up the skipper. Does that mean that's lethal? I think it does. No, not quite, because of the hero power. There's 18 available here. Is there anything else other than just going face with everything, then playing a Grommash and hitting another 10? And asking YouLove, have you got it? Is there anything safer on the backswing? It's actually really difficult from where he's sat. So, having to take damage off the board. Is he? I don't know if this was right. If you're going to clear this board, the point is to take less damage. And he ended up taking the damage anyway. Not sure about that one. But there's no punish available in YouLove's hand. And Sword, yeah, Sword's not impressed with that turn, I don't think. I'm certainly not. But he's played a very clean match so far. As has YouLove. But now he's down to just getting what he can in the way. I'm not sure who's favoured here. It's got to be Sword because he's got so many cards, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's got to be Sword. But wow, it's all been a bit weird from about, I don't know, turn 9 onwards. He's finally got a board though, and YouLove is out of, well, I say he's finally got a board, he's had a board most of the game, but YouLove is out of stuff. So we could finally be getting to the end of this for IG. This will put them to 7 and 4 if he takes it down. And Sapper, just not what YouLove needed. And Sword, knowing that YouLove's out of stuff, just throws everything into this. YouLove gives it up, and Sword takes a hard-fought battle, 3 games to 2, and IG go to 7 and 4.